So, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to Rise Institute Travel's screening of this documentary, um, Hidden in Plain Sight, which is about the safari industry in Tanzania. Um, I will start with a few quick comments about Rise as a organization, and then we will show the video. So quickly about Rise, um, Vinci, can you share your screen? Yes. Okay. I'm still admitting people. So Rise Travel Institute.
Sorry, yeah, sorry for interrupting. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna make Kathy our
Here's Maggie.
Kathy our co-host, so that Kathy, perhaps you could continue to let people in.
Is that going to show us too?
And
Yes.
and I would also appreciate if everyone could mute your audio. Yeah, and if you do have a Q&A towards the end, and you would have the time to unmute and share your thoughts and ask questions. So thank you. Julia, I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Vinci. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are watching Hidden in Plain Sight. The real cost of safari lurks in the shadows, directed by Rachel Levy. And then About Rise Travel Institute is a 501(c) nonprofit founded in 2020 by Dr. Vinci Ho with a mission to create a more just and equitable world through travel education. We envision a world where travelers practice and promote responsible, impactful, sustainable, and ethical travel that uplifts global communities and protects natural ecosystems. Our programming, we are currently running our Rise flagship program, and I'm currently taking part in that as well, which is an online curriculum that is aimed at bringing a more intersectional and decolonial lens to understanding tourism and travel and sustainability. We also offer experiential journeys for our flagship alumni that are curated by Rise to make sure that we are following the principles in the flagship program, and that gives students an opportunity to do that in person with us. And we also provide a number of educational resources, blogs, podcasts. We do webinars and events, and we also have an important book about decolonizing travel that we will talk more about at the end of the program that you can download for free. Our approach is focused on sustainability, understanding our interconnectedness, and paying attention to and respecting Indigenous communities wherever they are, working with local businesses and trying to put money back into local economies. And once again, we will talk more about that book as we get to the end of the program. Now, I would quickly introduce myself. I am Dr. Julia Mazzaros. I am an associate professor of sociology at Texas A&M Commerce University, which is near Dallas, Texas. And I am the events manager here at Rise. And I quickly want to give a land acknowledgement for where I currently am. So I acknowledge that the land I am here on today is within the historic homelands of the Wichita, Caddo, Kickapoo, and Tawakani nations. So I acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this territory. I honor and respect the many diverse indigenous peoples who are connected to this land on which I am gathering today, as well as Indigenous peoples all over the world who have faced similar histories of genocide, removal, and marginalization. So, quickly, just to introduce the broader topic of the film today, the global safari tourism market is currently valued at $30 billion in 2023, but the US safari tourism industry accounts for 10 billion of that, so near a third. Rachel Levy's documentary, Hidden in Plain Sight, sheds light on these inequalities inherent to the safari industry, a vestige of colonialism that is reproduced through many neo-colonial relations in Africa. So now I turn it over to the director, Rachel, to start the film for us.
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. Just want to say thank you for coming and joining. I'm really excited to share the film with you, and I'm going to get it pulled up here.
Thank you, everyone, for watching the film with us. And so now I want to start our discussion panel by introducing our discussants for the film. So, Rachel Levy, graduate of Harvard College 2022, is a writer, photographer, and documentary filmmaker, creating work at the intersections of modern colonialism, ecotourism, and environmental justice. Most recently, after her work finished in Tanzania, she worked on a portrait series with Alaska Native elders where she collected stories about Tlingit identity, subsistence lifestyles, and histories. She's currently living in Southeast Alaska as a block print artist and a writer for the Alaska Current, working on stories related to culture, environment, and tourism. Maggie Duncan, CBA, was one of the first female safari guides in Tanzania. She now has her own safari company, Maggie's Tour Company, which also helps support the Dare Women's Foundation, a non-governmental organization she founded in 2013. The foundation works to empower Tanzanian women and girls through poverty alleviation, economic empowerment, and gender equality. Maggie spoke at the Conference of World Affairs in Boulder, Colorado in 2013 and 2018. Brighton Billiani is a conservation and tourism professional from Tanzania who has dedicated his life to wildlife preservation and sustainable tourism. With experience at the College of African Wildlife Management in Wika, the renowned Serengeti National Park, and Tanzania National Parks, Brighton has built a strong foundation in wildlife management and sustainable tourism. He holds a bachelor's degree in wildlife management and master's in sustainable tourism management from Vancouver Island University, Canada. Dr. Vinci Ho is our founder and executive director at Rise Travel Institute and an adjunct faculty member at Antioch University and Institute for Humane Education, specializing in human rights education. So I am going to start our panel with a question for Rachel. What inspired you to explore the Tanzanian safari industry, particularly focusing on issues of economic leakage and exploitation? What was your motivation to make this film?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Julia. When I went over there, the idea for the film was really quite different than what the film ended up being. Originally, my idea was to go over there and work on a film about gender equity in the safari industry. And I think a lot of Maggie's role in the film kind of portrays that and shows what's going on in that neck of the woods. But as I got more immersed in the communities of guides and operators, local guides and operators, this other narrative kind of started coming forward. So I started hearing more about this economic leakage problem, about the foreign ownership problem. And my kind of approach to storytelling always is how can I help people get their truest story out? I didn't want to go in there with this idea and stick to that no matter what. I wanted to be of service and to use my capabilities to help share a larger, more important story, whatever that happened to be. So the longer I stayed there, the more these conversations kept coming up, and the story sort of transformed thanks to all of the input and trust of everybody in the film, trusting me with their story. It sort of transformed into this larger topic about economic leakage, foreign ownership, these things that are very obvious once you're there. And these are stories we see across the world. This isn't just in Tanzania, but once you're there, you understand the system, but it's really not obvious until you get there, you know, until it's almost too late. You already booked, you already invested your money with certain companies. Then you get to Tanzania and you see what's happening. You see how you would have done it better. So as someone who loves to travel, as someone who wants to benefit the communities that I go and visit, I kind of was inspired to shift the narrative slightly to address this problem, to show what's going on so that travelers can be better, so that they can use that money to benefit those local people in these communities that we're looking to visit.
Thank you so much for that answer, Rachel. My next question is for Maggie. How does economic leakage affect your community and the overall local economy in Tanzania, do you think?
Will you mind to repeat your question, please?
Of course, no problem. How do you think this problem of all this money going into the foreign companies and this economic leakage, how is that really impacting local communities in Tanzania, in your opinion?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. And hello, everybody. So I think one of the negative impact, it starts from our government. If the government, either they know or they don't know that the money stays, let's say, for example, in US, that means they will have a small amount which will affect the community. Because even themselves, they are people. They know how they do these numbers. They will do from that small number, from that small profit, from the taxes. So again, if the government doesn't get a reasonable amount of money from tourism, but they think they are getting, then of course that profit will be divided into whatever they divide in a very small percent, and it will affect pregnant women, it will affect students, that is schools, I mean education. They won't even get food like in the public schools. Most of the public schools, people say they get food, but they'll get beans and a little corn stiff, which we call ugali. And sometimes we'll be complaining about the government, wherever we complain, but everybody is the government. But the issue is under carpet, you see? And then it will affect hospitals, it will affect pregnant women. When I was delivering my children, especially the first one, it's a long story. I'm allowing everybody to find me through email or anything, and I will tell you the story when I was delivering my kids, the way the hospitals are. So we don't point fingers at the government, but we have to also think about the impact from tourism. As one of our colleagues said, so percent, he did these statistics. The so percent goes back to the developed countries. And so percent, it comes back here. And then people are like, oh, the government of Tanzania is doing very bad. Oh, corruption, whatever. Yes, it is true. But most people, they don't ask themselves why. What is under carpet? That is impact. But again, it affects not only the health and education, it also affects environment. If there is no income, if there is no food, if there is no water, if there is no healthcare, if someone comes from Arabian countries, let's say, or BC, and talk to people like, if you kill elephant, I need elephant tusks. They will engage themselves in those issues to get money. They will find different ways to get money from the natural environment, including, again, I'm repeating, elephant tusks, leopard skin, etc. I don't have enough evidence, but what I know from the news, they caught 61 black-faced variety monkey transferred. They caught it at the airport, and they caught giraffe, 3 live giraffe. They were transferred. But again, it's not official. I don't have a real statistic official, but that happened. Why? People want to benefit from this tourism, from environment, but also it affects individuals. You are working as a guide and then you are earning almost nothing. And you're telling the clients, oh, yeah, life is good, you know, and you're smiling. It's not good. But also your health will be stressed because you are not getting, and you're telling the clients, I am okay. That is already one of the stress that most of the tour guides are getting. In summary, I can say that, but there is more negative impact. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for your answer, and it's a really thoughtful answer.
And sorry for adding more. When people don't earn income, especially women and girls, even men, they will also engage themselves into, sorry to say, sex business, which will lead them to have a lot of babies. And then at the end of the day, people, UN, everywhere, they will say, oh, Africa, the population is growing very fast. These people just like to give birth. They know nothing than breeding, etc. But the impact also comes from high population is not something good. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you for your answer. Okay, my next question is for Brighton. Oh no, I just quickly lost it. Well, my question for Brighton is, what do you think are the impacts of colonialism and neo-colonialism on the safari tourism industry in Tanzania? Brighton? He was just there.
Have we lost Brighton?
I think he maybe is having.
I'm back. I think I had a network glitch or something. Sorry for
Right, no worries.
I was going to cry.
that.
Okay, there he is. Brighton, were you able to hear the question, or do you need me to?
No, please just repeat the question. I'll be happy for that.
Yeah, no problem. So, what do you think are the impacts of colonialism and neo-colonialism on this industry in Tanzania?
Okay, so the impact. Let's let's take a little bit this in a broad way and look at this. Normally people, they don't see the issue until when we are already into a result of the issue itself. So right now, if everything is dictated by the other country, that means you are just practicing. You're not doing your own thing. You're doing because other people, they just put those plans, they put those policies in place, and you're the one just to do it on the ground. So for that case, even the decision that the government or the policymakers, the company owners and everyone, they're not actually doing things because it is how it will benefit everyone or it will benefit them. It is based on someone else who already dictated, put that in writing. It's like you are there to read in front of everyone what someone else already did or write. They put their ideas, their mind, and you are there to represent, to write it on their behalf. So for that case, the impact is not only on one venture. You're talking about social, political, everything is being affected, is being compromised just because of only one part of it. So normally when we look at that, we say we don't want to complain about why are we here, because if we say that, it will be a question to go and ask a veterinary, someone who was in a war for a couple years, and we ask about the PTSD, like what is happening. So we go back and check the nature of the educational system, for instance, itself. You see, okay, they were just training people to work for other people, to work under people, to be there to work for them. They were not being given that kind of education for themselves to liberate themselves, to say, now we want to think out the box and make sure we make the world a better place for everyone. If the nature of the education itself is still to make them to be like an employer, being there to represent them, take or carry on their ideas, then that's a issue. But now with this kind of like resources, education is more available to majority of people. We are thinking people, they can just go in a different venture and possibly we can understand a little bit. That's why you have people now, they can raise their voice and say, we don't think this is right. We think this needs to be changed. So the impact is huge. But I can profess by saying we see there must be a little bit some changes in the near future, because we have people that are seeing and they're ready to go forward and say, okay, we are happy to read your letters the way you are written, but we think we can rephrase it a little bit and make sure our community, they are actually being heard and some stuff can be taken into considerations. So I think I'll just reserve some of the content on that. I will be able to carry on another question, but just in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Brighton. I appreciate that answer. Maggie, I have another question for you. What changes would you like to see within the safari industry to create more economic opportunities for local Tanzanians? Maggie, you're on mute, babe.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Now you're off.
Oh, thank you, my sweetheart.
Thank you
not
for
going
the
to
help,
say.
friend who helped. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. I will go through one big example. I have mentioned few people who have been a good example, which I wish the world should know. I believe that there is a big wall between developing countries and developed countries. And probably that thing is technology or something else. Mr. Mbilini has been mentioning a lot of good examples. But I will add technology to say, okay, because most of people in developed countries like Google, even here in Africa, they believe in Googling, they trust in Googling. But I'm glad we have had few people from those countries who have crossed the wall and trust us. Googling is okay, technology is good, we love it, but there is another negative impact about it. You Google, you trust people who can write. You trust people who can put pictures. You trust people who know the context on what should I say to impress someone in America, in Europe, etc. Most of us don't know. We don't have that experience on how should I approach you so that you can accept me. So like one of the colleagues said, the trust is not there, which is right, because you are dealing and you are caring and you are worrying also about your life. Most of people from those countries, they're worrying. They are not happy. They have so much materials, but really most of them, they are not happy. They're unhappy. They don't trust themselves, etc. Now I have these examples of people who crossed the wall. They dare to try us. And I'm going to start with, I have categorized into groups. There are students, for example, in America. There is one example of the students called Christopher Olson and Sonia Lee from Lewis and Clark University. And I'm saying this on behalf of Ken Clifton and his wife, but also I'm saying this on behalf of this strong woman who is here. I saw her. We call each other sisters, Emily. They came through whatever company, which is good, but then they had their own private time to look for us, to learn more about us, to dig deep more about us. And they founded secrets between them. And we became very good, close friends. And they started to connect us with more people to travel with us, to volunteer in our NGO, to travel through our safari company, etc. So another person, which is a good example, is a professor at CU Boulder, University of Colorado, Laura De Luca. I call her sister, or Mwalimu. Mwalimu means teacher. I see her also with one of the students. Her name is Stephanie. Stephanie came on safari with her friend recently from this connection from De Luca. Yes, she came down here, but she had her own time, separate time, to dig deep, to know more about us. And then at the end of the day, this connection grew. But not only that, I have she connected me with Morgan Gege, who is another student. I'm just mentioning few, but there is a lot of them, like who really understand the meaning of people and value. Those one who knows about that, we are sharing one atmosphere, we are all breathing, we are all people. Those one who understand that the history shouldn't be written only by whites writing about blacks. I'm not here about colors, I'm here about the reality. Who are you writing about me? I have to talk about myself. This community should share about their stories themselves. Who are you talking about them? You should find a way, like Rachel did, who did this video and film. We fall in love with her. Why? Because she knows how to live with us. She didn't come here with a white superior and start to remote us and control us. But I have another example, Conservation Volunteers International Program. This is international in the US, but they jumped the wall. They founded us, say, we want to try these people. We want to do these things with them. We can correct these small errors between each and everyone and vice versa, because we are all human. We want to learn from them, and they're becoming once a year. That's another example. And there is some there and another people in that group. There's another group called UGO, Travel for Change, UGO, Travel for Change. There is one sister, I call her Jill Valentine. She crossed the world. She told me about the lifestyle of people in Canada, in US, etc. I told her the lifestyle of people here, and we put heads together to see how we can work together. Instead of saying, oh, she is not white, she's white. Come down here, or I come there, we talk, and we see how we can work together and make the world smile. This world is for everybody. There is everything for everybody. Is enough. And there's another woman, my friend, I called Sister Anna Berna. She's amazing. She's been connecting me with a lot of friends too. Then they'll be traveling with me in the future, I believe, but they can contact me, ask me questions, and I ask them questions as well. And we have several families. We have Kaninja family, we have Laura and Stefan, we have Linda Berta, we have Ken and Lisa, and we have our cute clients who came back from Tanzania day before yesterday. You can see Doreen there, and there's Judith. Maybe they'll talk about it. But she tried, she crossed the wall and she saw the reality. So that is a good example, and many, many examples. Journey Women Platform. They chose me as part of women. I'm a woman like them. So I'm part of them, you know? Those people, those examples. Rise Travel Institute. Who am I to be here right now? I'm the same like Rachel. I'm the same like you, Julia. I'm the same like whoever here. Alan, Doreen. We are one. We share this bread together. Life is about love and happiness. So that I can say it's one of the examples. People as an individual, don't generalize and say the government or the groups. You as an individual, take your time, learn, try. You will see the reality. There is a lot of positive change. We love these investors to come here because also the government will get some money at least, and people get employment, yes, and there will be labor, yes. But I have very good example, which if I have opportunity, I will share from my life. Thank you, but there's a lot more examples. I just started to mention these names, and there's more of them. These are just few on behalf. Sonia, etc. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, unmuted. Thank you, Maggie. I appreciate your commentary about having local people have voice for themselves instead of being described by others. I think that's really important point that you made and really poignant. For Brighton, what do you believe are the most important steps toward creating a safari industry that benefits local communities equitably? In what ways could the Tanzanian government or international organizations support more equitable growth in the industry?
Thank you so much for that wonderful question. I think several steps that should be taken into considerations is not, we need first to forget about blaming at someone. We need to look at what are the methods, what are the means we can put in place in order to make this profit equitably for the locals. And for tourism is big enough that can benefit almost everyone in the ecosystem. The only problem that we have here, it's the system. It's the system. The system is not in a position to put everyone in the same position that we can absolutely benefit in equal manner. So starting from the local, I cannot start by saying the local community itself. I think I start mentioning by the authorities in Tanzania as a destination, as the people that we are speaking on their behalf here. I'm speaking on behalf of my fellow Tanzanians, of guides, or like the local community. So when I say that, is the government itself, they should put some policies first to understand and recognize people who are paying these costs for the tourism, for conservation. When you go into a national park, when you go in a parks to look for, to watch for lions, to watch for wildlife, there are local communities surrounding that areas that we know they're there always. They're the one that get those costs. Their crops have been eaten by the wild animals. When you are going there with your vehicle to do the tourist, you're the one causing all those noise pollution, going around their privacies and everything. But what are they getting in return from those kind of costs they're getting, from those opportunistic costs they're getting? That means they just expected you to support them. If they have their local businesses running around, that means they're expecting you as a tourist to be able to support them instead of going and buy from the big shop that's out there. So those stuff, like supporting the local communities when you see or you meet them at the destination, it's part of supporting them. But the government itself, they start by taking a little bit steps into few steps. I did my study in 2022, and I'll try to pick a little bit some stuff that I still remember because I had a very good conversation with the safari local tour guides over there. And there are a few things. For instance, number one, it seems to be there is no salary scale to say like this is the minimum wage for people working in this industry. If there's no minimum wage, that means you can be paid whatever someone who hired you can pay. But if we recognize and we value their job, we value their position, and we say, you know what, yeah, this is the policy we put in place, this will be the minimum wage, this is a profession like other professions, then the guide, they will feel like, oh, we are respected, and this is a job like other jobs. So they need to do that. They just need to formalize and make sure there's a policies that goes like that. People, they get paid based on what they do. So the policy should be a little bit changed. The government also should give equal opportunity to the local communities when it comes to the ownership of the companies itself. How come someone from the foreign country is given a free range to say you can start right away because they believe you have money, you have resources, you can do, but the local person, you are given a very long trend on how you can run your business, and sometimes you are even not given that permission to run your business. So there should be in the destination country itself, there should be equal chances for the local and the foreigners to be given an opportunity to run the business. It's a business everyone can run, provided that you can be able to deliver the result. But the support should be given from the government itself, from their policies, from the way they want things to move around. When we go to the how can be changed in a bigger perspective, I think we can say the agencies, they're not doing a good job, but this kind of like a middleman, people who are staying in between the travel agents and the tour company, the one that is situated in the ground, there's someone here at the middle who takes a very good portion or percentage of these benefits, and neither of these two countries they're benefiting. It's not the destination country, it's not even the agents themselves. Provided that the middleman is from that foreign countries, they're the one that is getting those 80%, 50, 70%, 80% of the money. Just few, it's going to that destination countries. So the point is, I think people, they also need to change a little bit of the perspective and see how they can absolutely make their travel, their contribution impact the lives of the local community, instead of assuming things they are just okay. Things are not okay. They need to get at least a little moment to socialize with the local communities and understand the nature of things, how it moves around. We are moving with a very old narration by saying if we interact with the local community, 1, 2, 3 will happen. But in reality, they're just human. They possibly they are nice and kind as wherever we can call. So mainly, we just need to be kind to each other. We just need to be fair to each other. The government put policies, make some monitoring, make equal chances to all people in the ecosystem to share, to move around. So in a nutshell, again, I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Brighton. I appreciate, and that actually leads me into my next question, the kind of comments you were talking about, how can travelers be more cognizant of their impact on local communities? So for Vinci, what role do you believe tourists can play in promoting a more ethical and sustainable safari industry? And before we just jump into that question, Vinci, I just want to make a quick announcement. Since we lost some time at the beginning due to those technical issues, we were wondering if people would be open to stay on this call for 10 more minutes. We're so fortunate to have our guest speakers join us today, so I hope they'll have enough time to share their experience and valuable insights so we can all learn from them. For those who, of course, need to sign off, please feel free to do so. We will share the recording of this conversation in a post-event email. So getting back to the question for Vinci, just a reminder, what role do we believe that tourists can play in promoting a more sustainable and ethical safari industry?
Thank you, Julia. Can everybody hears me? Okay, perfect. Well, I would echo the interviewees in the film who mentioned a few times, like, do your research, right? Do your research and dig much deeper. Support locally owned companies whenever possible. When we think about, there are only 15% of Black-owned or locally owned companies in safari tourism companies in Tanzania. That means we have to dig deeper to find them, right? And so wherever possible, choose to book locally, prioritize locally owned operators to foreign companies, because again, if you spend $5,000 on your safari trip, all those 5,000 not all the $5,000 would go to the local company communities if you are booking through a foreign-owned company, right? Only $250 would actually go to the local communities. But if you support the Tanzanian owned companies, that means all the $5,000 would go back into the community by through taxes, through the business owners purchasing foods, bringing food to the table, paying for tuition for their kids, and so on, right? And also, if you have to, although not recommended, but if you have to go by a foreign company, then evaluate the foreign company's claim. If you decide to go with a foreign-owned company that claims to support local communities, seek evidence of how they do so, ask questions, and look for transparency in their operations. And then I would say that also assess the local employment practices, because oftentimes we say, well, we're going to a country and we support the local economy, but that's because there are like locals employed in tourism industry, but that's not true. We have to look at like what positions that the local employees hold, and whether they hold managerial and leadership positions, or whether they're only doing the hard jobs and being paid very little. So that's something that we need to look at. And when we travel, it's important for us to build deeper connections with the locals, and not just consider them as service providers or facilitators of our activities. Yes, we're there to see the animals, the wildlife, but who actually are the stewards of their land and who help protect the animals and nature? It's the local people. And so we need to support them in order for them to support their own environment. And as Maggie said in the film, right, if you love the sighting of the wildlife, then respect Mother Nature, and then we should respect the locals, because they need to have the agency to take care of their lands and the animals and the waters. And another thing would be spread awareness. When you come home, don't just show your beautiful photos of the animals, but also talk about your experiences supporting the local companies and your deep connections formed and fostered with the local communities. Encourage others to also get informed, educated, and keep learning, keep informed, and then just help shift the system, because right now only 15% of the tourism safari companies are owned by the locals. But if you as the consumers support the locals, then hopefully that percentage is going to change. So I think that's a lot about doing your research and staying educated about the issue.
So since we're a little crunched on time, I had a question for Rachel that also kind of coincides with a question from the audience. And so that way we'll kind of start shifting towards audience questions as well. So largely, how has the response to the film been? Have you seen any impact? Has it been shown in Tanzania, etc.? So.
Yeah, the response has been really amazing. So right now it's in the film festival circuit. It's been shown globally and all around the US as well. It's been in about 12 or 13 different film festivals. It's won 4 or 5 different awards. So people it's really, really resonating with people. It's primarily showing in festivals related to tourism, to travel, to stewardship, sustainable living, things like that. So I think it's landing with a lot of people who are coming from the US looking to travel to various international destinations, but know that they want to do it better. So it's been really well received. People are asking really thoughtful questions. I've had people follow up with me post-film, asking for contact information with different operators in the film, that making me think, they're booking locally, they're wanting to know how they can find these local operators to make sure that money is staying in country. I think the desire is there from the traveler standpoint to want to benefit these communities, because it's a win-win. The traveler has a better experience when you're, having a real authentic interaction with local communities and countries, but it's also benefiting the community, and that makes the traveler feel good. And I think travelers are seeking these types of opportunities. It's just about increasing the dialogue, increasing conversation, kind of what Vinci was saying, giving them avenues to go down as they're researching, as they're finding local companies. Because again, this is not just a problem that we see in Tanzania. This is across the world. I see this in Alaska. I've lived in Hawaii. I saw it in Hawaii. You see it everywhere you go. There are the haves and the have-nots. Certain people are able to control narratives. So it's about giving travelers the tools to find the real narratives, the narratives told by the people who are telling their own story.
Excellent. Congratulations on winning so many awards and, having this film spread awareness by being in all these different festivals and getting all this traction. That's amazing. Another question from the audience, and if folks want to write more questions into the chat, or if they want to raise their hand and ask off of mute, they're welcome to. So let me see. I've seen a couple questions in here. Question for Maggie and Brighton. So both of you. The type of traveler who has chosen to travel with a responsible tour company, such as Maggie's, likely already had an awareness of the systemic issues within the industry and consciously chose to support Maggie's business. How do you balance the need to maintain your business with the need to also reach and educate travelers who do not really understand the realities of this industry yet?
Thank you. Let's start the last part of the question. How do you, for instance, let's take, because it was specifically mentioned the company, for instance, Maggie Travel Company. So when they are doing that, how do they also help to educate or to raise awarenesses to other companies? So I'll go back and take this example. When we were mentioning about benefiting the local community, or the people who you are actually interacting with them in your destination. So some of the companies that are not Maggie, that are owned by other foreigners, big companies that are actually the one dictating the lion's market share of the tourism industry itself, they do these few things that I'll mention here, and maybe it will open our eyes. Number one, food is not bought from the locals, it is imported. For that case, locals, they don't have market to say they're gonna sell in a tourism ecosystem. They cannot, because the food from those hotels and lodges, it is imported. Wine getting imported, those kind of major things. People who are actually representing or running the business, they're foreigners, just hired from outside, coming in there. So if things changes a little bit, let's say Maggie company, you are there, the main thing is to show people, by you trying to do it, you're showing people, you're demonstrating to people that it is possible for me to use a local owned company and still enjoy and still be sustainable and still meet my need, my expectations. It's not really necessary to go and have those big giant companies that possibly, it's for me, because I have data, I did the study on that. I can absolutely say confidently that they don't care about the local community. What they care, it's about they invented funnel, big money up here, and what goes underneath there, it is just manure, a little bit. So if I'm dealing with companies like Maggie, that means possibly I'm making a funnel that is a little bit not inverted. Possibly you're talking about the whole money that you as a tourist, you input towards Maggie's company. Maggie will take all your expenses for the company. But where are you going to be spending the money? You're spending the money to the locals, buying food, buying drinks, paying for the place to stay. It's a hotel, it's a lodge. You're doing it to the fellow locals. That money going to reach to the last person. There's people working in those lodges, they have families. They're benefiting from the money that you as a tourist, you traveled from people like Maggie. So the point is, if I used Maggie's company versus if I used someone X company, that bigger funnel, very little amount of money was going to reach that local community down there. The last person who is even sweeping or cleaning the lodge or selling a banana somewhere there. If I use now Maggie company, because large amount of portion of money is going directly to Maggie's now is spending to the local communities down there. That means the portion, the share, the flow of money, it is more pronounced if I use those companies. So my point is, we are not banning, we are not pushing away these big companies. We are not pushing away foreign-owned companies. What we are trying to say here is, when we are doing our business in a certain country, not necessarily be Tanzania, any country, let's have audacity of respecting a little bit, at least to support their business that is already existing. if I buy, as long as it is in equality, if I buy food from the local community, I'm supporting them. If I'm taking the employees from them, I support them. At the beginning, it is seen as if it is a broader way. But in reality, if someone is caring enough just for these little things, the impact is huge. Hire, just employ these people from the locals, give them necessary skills, train them. They work for you. It is fine. Train them. Make sure they just be able to present or to give out what you're expecting. Then we are good with that. So I think the demonstration itself for the company like Maggie, go there, do it, make it possible, provide good experience, send a message to other people that you can use local company and still enjoy your travel and still support the local community and still respect the local community.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mr. Mbelini, and thank you, everybody. I would like, if Doreen and Judith and Stephanie, if it's okay with you, if you can give a little example from the question, because you have been here recently and you have vivid examples. Please, Doreen.
Well, I just returned 2 days ago from traveling with Maggie. I had been to Tanzania before, had done the traditional foreign company tour, and it was great, but I learned nothing really about the culture. I went with Maggie, and I'm a transformed person about how life really is in Tanzania and Kenya. We went to Kenya too. Anyway, I think what Brighton was saying about buying the food from the local people, buying whatever we needed from the local people is really, really important, rather than having it shipped in and at the lodge and, you know, put it in the safari truck and off we go. Meeting the people, engaging with the people, so important. And it was a completely different experience. So I met Maggie in a parking lot the last time I was there. That's how I found Maggie. She's a force to be reckoned with. And Tanzania is so fortunate to have her. Thank you. And I have to leave. I'm so sorry. Have to be somewhere in a few minutes. So bye, Maggie. Love you.
Bye. Yeah, those are a couple of examples, and there is more. There is Stephanie, etc. But I don't like to take all the time. We have a lot to share, like a lot. But I know the time is here. We don't care much about time unless we are doing official things. I can talk to.
Okay. One more, a couple more questions from the audience.
Yes.
Laura, powerful. Is there any mention of Tanzanians losing their land, such as the Maasai?
I don't know why I love that question. I love that question because I will start with my history. 8 years ago, when I was doing my undergrad at College of African Wildlife Management, Mweka, and later on, after graduating, I was taken back to be an tutorial assistant as an assistant lecturer over there. I saw the community in two different perspectives. One when I was a student, and two as a teacher. When I was a student, I was paying more attention, listening to what my teacher are asking and all that to go with assignment. Now, when I went back as a teacher, my point was to understand what I'm actually teaching people, especially not because the book tells me what should I say. It's because now I started reasoning. You read at the mid of the sentence and you ask yourself, wait a bit. I think it's not right. So the story of Loliondo and Ngorongoro in general I did my study, and I had several papers already as well. 5 years ago, that's when I just decided to actually do something into. In one sentence, I said, in quotation, I predict there's a day that political power, they will be bribed by the foreigners in a way that they will use few strong political power leaders to drive away the locals from where they belong under the umbrella of so-called conservation and tourism. So the backstory behind that, the Ngorongoro and Serengeti in general, back in the day, 1957, if I remember well, people from Serengeti, they were moved from Serengeti and placed in Ngorongoro by saying, hey, we want to leave Serengeti to be a conservation area. You will live here in Ngorongoro. They were promised, they were taken from their land and kept there. Yes. So after some time, now the political power is coming and it's telling you, okay, even the place now we told you we were giving you, we are relocating you again, get away, under the umbrella of conservation and tourism. Again, another study that I did again on the same area, what I found out is this. When they allowed these people from Serengeti to come in Ngorongoro, the population was very small, wasn't big. But same as other people in the world, they have opportunity to grow, they have opportunity for development and everything. Back in the day, they had these small houses fetched with grasses, eco-friendly. It can be demolished now. There is no big carbon footprints left behind. So now things changed. People, they started having roofed houses in that so-called protected area where the animals are and everything. Population is getting bigger. Now it is pushing the protected areas that are actually core areas for wildlife to be a little bit minimized, to be reduced in size. So because of that, the government now comes and say, okay, what we gonna do? It's not about how they can strategize to push a little bit the area that are now Serengeti and the Loliondos there. And the main thing they come up is not willingly, not actually speak to the local community properly. It was political influenced in the other way to take these people out. It's not my point to mention or to talk about that. Political people, they would just be able to talk. I'm just talking a little bit based on scientific research perspective or view. That's the only part I will leave it into. So it is true that people in Loliondo, they're being affected because of the investors that are there for years. It's more than couple generations. And foreigners there being respected, given his privacy, given his space, local community out, being harassed, being affected, and everything. But the point comes here is when we are saying, when we are talking about conservation and sustainable tourism, for instance, I am not a big fan of saying this is right and this is wrong. I'm a big fan of, okay, you are wrong, I'm wrong. Let's sit down and figure out what's the better way to make it right. So if the government was going to be able to sit down with the foreign investors, with the local community and the government itself, the political leaders, sit down and discuss about how can we coexist here, because that is the nature of the area itself. The local community needs to be heard. Those foreigner investors needs to be heard as well. And the government come up with the rules or regulation or policy and say, you know what, sure, this is what we're gonna move forward to make sure we all coexist. This world, as I mentioned earlier, tourism is big enough that it's a big ocean. We can just all benefit from that. But the main thing is, how are we going to be able to benefit without affecting each other, without affecting the mother nature as well?
Thank you so much for that response. Due to time constraints, I'm going to turn it over to our fundraising manager, Kathy, and she's going to announce some announcements for us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy. I'm the Senior Manager of Fundraising and Finance at Rise Travel Institute. And I just wanted to say thank you all for coming and supporting this event. I don't think I'm alone in saying we wish that this discussion could just keep on going. It's so much fascinating topics. So this was a fundraiser, and I'm happy to announce that together we were able to raise over $1,700 today for this event, which will allow us to support students in taking RISE's flagship programs and experiential journeys in the future for free or reduced cost. We also plan to host more events like this, both fundraising events as well as completely free events to involve everyone interested in the sustainable and ethical travel space to create community, engage in open dialogue, and learn a thing or two to allow us to make more informed decisions when we travel. We do have the power to shape the future of travel through our individual and collective influence, and you all are invaluable in that work. If you enjoyed this event and want to see more like it, we are looking for new monthly donors to help sustain our mission all year round. It really makes a huge difference, no matter whether it's $5 or $50 or more. You can become a monthly donor on our website at risetravelinstitute.com, where you could also give a one-time donation if that is more comfortable. I'll share the direct link in our Zoom chat. Thank you all again so much for your support, and I'll hand it back to Julia to close us out.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you all for your attendance and helping to support this important fundraiser for our educational programs here at RISE. I'm going to turn it over to Vinci really quick to just talk about our Decolonizing Travel book.
Sure. Thank you so much, Julia. Just a very quick announcement. For those who don't know already, we published an ebook called Pathways to Equity, RISE Travel Institute's Decolonial Travel for the Conscious Traveler. It is a 90-page free resource for as an important reference to inspire travelers to think more critically about how the world is structured by colonialism and neocolonialism, and what it means by decolonizing how we think about travel, how we practice travel, and how we talk about travel. And so together, we're hoping to provide some guidance in terms of how we can all contribute to dismantling oppressive systems abroad and at home. So I urge every one of you, I invite every one of you to download this ebook. It's free. You can scan the QR code here, or you can go to our website. There's a link to download the book there. And Julia, I will hand it over back to you.
Okay, some really quick announcements. So RISE Travel has been nominated for 2 Applied DEI awards by Travel Unity, as well as our founder, Vinci. If you can vote for us, the vote is due by Monday, November 4th, and we would appreciate your vote. And there is a QR code to be able to go vote for that by Monday. And finally, follow us. You can find us at our website, risetravelinstitute.org. You can find us on LinkedIn at Rise Travel Institute. And you can always email us at info@Rise Travel Institute. And there's a QR code to subscribe to our newsletter. Attendees will receive a post-event email with the recording of the event, as well as a simple survey to fill out. If today's event resonated with you and you want to see more events like this in the future, please let us know. We also want to hear, of course, how we can improve, etc. I want to thank, again, all of you who attended, our speakers, Maggie, Brighton, our filmmaker, Rachel, our founder, Vinci. And for those who have a few extra minutes, I would still like to ask the final audience questions to our panelists, if they're still willing to stay on for a couple minutes post the time for the event. So we had so many great questions. We just wanted to make sure we made our announcements. Here we go. Let me get back to the questions that we had. Do international safari companies have a pledge that they sign and encourage guests to sign about their mission to support local communities and create an annual impact report that reports on what their actual actions and results are of their tourism in African countries / Tanzania? And is there a local Tanzania-based and locally staffed org that serves as the verification agency that is an objective third party to validate if what the international companies are saying is actually true? So is there any kind of regulation of this? I guess would be the summed up portion of that question.
So there's no regulations. That's that's a reason how we say among of things that can be done right to stabilize the situation is by having those kind of regulations in place. And because we are lacking, we are missing that. That's why it is kind of like a free place that everyone can ride and go with their own rules.
I'll just add, there's something called TATO, I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's something along the lines of like Travel and Tourism
Yeah.
Association, something like that.
Tanzania organization, yes.
Right, yeah. So they have certain lists that try to highlight local operations, but it's I won't say like very well like fact checked, I guess I'll put it that way. So that's at least a starting point. Local operators can opt in to be on these lists that highlight them as local operators, but there's no real objective third party being like, yes, we looked into it and these are completely locally owned. We stand by everything they said on their website about how they're helping local communities. So it's a start. The infrastructure is like a skeleton of what it could eventually be. But yeah, I think that's the struggle is is getting through the mess of marketing materials by these larger organizations to find the real locally owned operators. So Tato is trying, but I won't say that they're successful yet in having that infrastructure.
Maybe to add a little on Rachel, it is true they have a skeleton and it is moving forward. So it is a matter of the central government to approve what Tato suggested. Then
Right.
after that, it will be in place. So this is started 2.5 years ago. So it is something that is still newish, and it just need to go through several procedures until when it is in effect. So as we speak now, there is no actual regulation that involve the third parties to have those kind of involvement yet, but we're expecting in the near future, if this skeleton will actually be added some fresh on it and it is to become something tangible, then it can possibly be something that will change the whole situation here.
You have a comment, Maggie?
Yes, this is just a question to think about. How many percentage of tour operators are in Tato? How many percentage of the Tanzanian tour operators are in Tato? That is a question. I don't have the answer. Because I don't know what makes it heavy, but how many percentage of Tanzanian tour operators are part of Tato? And what regulations do they put for someone to be a member? Like, I'm a tour operator. Am I affording to be part of Tato? Tato is very good. I love it because there are some part of people there are really serious. But what makes it heavy? Rachel, she's amazing. She knows how to dig deep. I wish people will donate for Rachel to come back here because we wanted her to stay more, actually. I don't know. I've been asking her, are you coming back? We want to raise our voices. You can do documentary part 1, documentary part 2, part 3, part 4, etc.
I think sorry, I was just gonna say, I think what Maggie's getting at is there are certain fees associated with being part of Tato. Tato has reasons to support internationally owned businesses. There's a lot of things behind the scenes going on over there. So while they do have a lot of programs that help locals, it's, you know, a Tanzanian run organization. So there's obviously Tanzanian roots there. There is a lot of incentive behind the scenes to support internationally owned companies, and there's a lot of barriers to entry to low-income local operators that make it really difficult to get highlighted by Tato. So while it's like you know, it can be a good operation. It's not fully supportive of the locals yet.
But it's a good thing.
Are we allowed to talk as participants?
Sure. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just, well, I love whoever was saying, look deeply and do the research, because like Oakland Institute in California has documented that Thompson safaris really actually wasn't a great actor, but said that they were doing ecotourism. So if you look at globally owned companies, how many are doing it? Yeah, I guess my question is, if there isn't a good, I know there's like B Corps in the United States, like looking at, you know, I know Maggie's worked with sustainability, like, is there anyone out there doing a good job certifying whether what people say they're doing is what they're actually doing? Because Maggie, who is that company that you worked with that taught like all the sustainability protocols?
Are you talking about the company my sister was working and they showed wild animals in front of clients?
No, the certificate you got that was like, you got a framed certificate talking about all the different sustainability and locally.
Oh yeah, in Kenya. You can just open my website, you'll see the certificates on the first page.
Right.
It's a very complicated name, but it is very amazing.
Okay.
I studied in Kenya. Let me see it here. Yeah.
Okay. One more thing I just want. This is just throwing a stone into a dark place. Not sure who will be bitten by this, but my point is, when I was doing my research, I encountered so many interesting research studies. My background tells me a little bit more. Worked as a guide, not just a local guide. Worked as a guide as a profession. Went to school, studied for 3 good years, get my degree, then went to do some tour guiding. So talking from experience, not from just the books. Number 2, I worked as a ranger protecting this wildlife in a wild for 5 years. So again, not talking just from the papers, is from the background or from the experiences. Then I interacted with these communities, local communities living in this neighboring protected area where the tourism is actually centered or done. Then it came up with, when I was doing my research and reading other people's work, what they describe, and I try to assess or compare between what I see in a paper and what I encountered in a field, plus what I'm interviewing the current people who are actually still working in a field at the moment. Then these research also, sometimes they just need to, when you have a research, we just need to also check one and the second and the third and the whatever, at least to get a little bit more more info on that. Reason why I'm saying this is the same thing. We can be reading a book written about Canada, but the person who wrote it is from USA.
Kabisa.
For that case, I totally agree with the content or their good intention to bring things into light, but they can be oversighting, or some information cannot be absolutely revealed by the community or local community, because some issues, some problems, it's becoming too big and you feel shame to mention. But if you're talking to your local to local, you're okay to explicitly say everything. So possibly these kind of all the studies or the research, I second it and I love it because they are bringing all stuff into light. But it is nice to have so many people going out there, get those kind of research, get those kind of information. Like Rachel, what you did, I really appreciate for what you did. Go there, live with people, understand their concern, see the situation by yourself. Then when you're coming and read these papers, you say, I think with my mind, what I saw, what I read, what I learned, I can second this. I can move forward with that. So I still appreciate, and I cannot say thank you enough for whoever is doing those kind of research or studies. Keep bringing it forward so people can understand what is coming up. but it is nice also to make sure we have a deeper knowledge from the local community themselves instead of speaking on their behalf. Saying this because several papers spoke on their behalf, not the voice of the locals themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so
Can I-
much.
Excuse me,
I'm
can I
sorry,
send-
we
okay.
have to, I'm sorry, we have to wrap it up. It
Okay.
is 1 o'clock. If you have questions, Maggie and Brighton, people want to know if they can reach out to you after this panel. If you want to drop your information, I know Maggie has a website. Brighton, I'm sure you might have an email address or website that you can share, and Rachel as well. For those who might have questions that we could not unfortunately get to with the time crunch. I just want to thank again all of you who have joined us in the audience. I want to give a special thank you to Maggie, Brighton, and Rachel for joining us and sharing this wonderful film and their experiences and their research. And I just want to thank Vinci for organizing this and for creating RISE to begin with, and for bringing attention to the fact that we can encourage sustainable travel and tourism and work towards decolonizing our experiences. And I really wanted to just thank Brighton for pointing out that we always need Indigenous voices in this research space. So thank you all again, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for a great event.
Thank you very much, and everybody feel free to write, to WhatsApp, all the contacts. You guys have them. Give to people. That's why we are here. We are here to share with the world about what is underground and under carpet. And they should have this opportunity. No problem, yeah. WhatsApp me anytime, call me, email.
Thank you very much.
Precisely, yeah.
Shukran.
Yeah.
Thank you all again for everything.
Asante.
Asante sana.
Mhm.